Welcome to this video on getting started with Visual C#. When you first start Visual Studio, it should look much like the screen that you see here. If it doesn't, then you can reset your layout to look like this by simply coming up here to the Window menu at the top of the screen and say Window, Reset Window Layout. It'll ask you to confirm, and you can say yes. And now your window should look like this. To create a new project, we're going to come up to the File menu, and we're going to pick File, New, Project. When you create a new project, you should have Visual C# selected on the left-hand side, and Windows Format selected in the middle. If it's not, click it once. Don't double-click just yet. And that will allow us to create a Windows app that has forms in it, which is what we're about to do. Down here towards the bottom, you can choose a name for your file, your project. We're going to call ours Hello World. That's kind of a convention whenever you're learning a new programming language to create a Hello World program. And mine is defaulting to an area on my C drive, a folder there. You can click Browse here if you would like to choose a different destination. And we can click OK. And this is what a new project looks like. Before we get too much farther, we're going to want to expose a toolbar that we're going to be using quite a bit going forward. So if you look over here in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, there's a toolbox item in the left-hand margin. Now, if I click on it, and I come up here to the little yellow box, I can click on this push pin, which will dock the window, and it will stay here all the time on the side of my screen. So the first thing we're going to do with our application is we're going to create a button, and we're going to make it so that when that button is pressed or clicked, that a message box shows up that says Hello World. So to begin by doing that, we're going to take this button control over on the left. If you don't have this list, you can't see it, then your list might look like this. And you're going to be looking for an entry called Common Controls. You're going to expand that, and right in that list should be Button. So if I click it and drag it over, I end up with a form that has a button on it. Now the first thing you'll notice is it says Button 1. I probably want a more descriptive text on that button. So I can come over here to the right. And there are a whole bunch of properties for anything that I have selected on the left-hand side of the screen or in the center part where I'm working. The properties for those items show up over here on the right. And for the purposes of this video, what I'd like you to do is change the way these properties are organized just to make them a little bit easier to find. And you should see right here a little A to Z icon, and if you mouse over it, it says alphabetical. If you click on that, it will resort all of the items in the properties list to be alphabetical. It makes them easier to find. So if I scroll down this list, now I've got button selected on the left-hand side here. And if I scroll down this list, you'll see an entry that says text. And over on the right, it says button 1. And that's how the button gets its label. So we're going to delete that, and we're going to make it say hello. If I hit enter, you look at your button over here in the middle, and indeed it says hello. Now this button, we refer to it as a control. All of these things that you drag and drop onto your forms are simply called controls. And it helps to name these controls something useful so that when we're writing code that makes them do something, we have an easy way to refer to them. So if you come back over here to our Properties menu, you'll see that there's an entry near the top called Name, and you see Button 1 here. We're going to change that and call it Hello Button. A couple of conventions here. One is we're always going to start with an uppercase letter, and we're going to have any multiple words that might be in our name, we're going to uppercase each first letter of those words. The other convention is that we're going to end the name of the control with what type of control it is. So if I have a hello button, then I'm going to put the word button at the end of the name. If it was a text box or it was a checkbox, then it would say hello checkbox or hello text box. So now that we've named it, and we've put it on our form and created a nice label on it, let's make it do something. And the way we do that is by writing C# code. You get to the C# code editor. In this case, we want to actually handle a click event on this button. Whenever somebody clicks on the button, that generates something called an event that your program can handle and do something with. So if I double click on it and I look at the code, you'll see there's a section of code here. We'll talk about what these other things are another day, but for now, you'll see an entry here that says hello button underscore click. So hello button is the name of the control that we just created, and click is the name of the event, the thing that happened to that button. So we're saying whenever the button clicks, do something. And the thing we're going to do shows up in between these two curly braces right here. So that is where our code is going to go. You should default to this automatically when you double click on the button and jump into this editor. If not, make sure that you click here. In my case, it's line 22. And this is where we're going to start typing. So what we want to happen is we want a message box to pop up and actually have it say hello world. So we do that by saying message. And notice as I start to type, this little pop-up window shows up. This is called IntelliSense. It's trying to sense what you're trying to type and give you a shortcut so that you can do it more quickly. And you'll notice message box is the second one on the list. And if I click on that, I can double click on it and it will select it. And if you had typed this in with a lowercase m, for example, that wouldn't have worked very well because C# is all case sensitive. So we need this command to start with a capital M and a capital B. But if I had started typing this lowercase MESS, notice that I can still select message box, but when I do that, it fixes the upper and lower case for me. So it's handy to be able to use that IntelliSense. Now what do we want to do with the message box? Well, there's no message box on our form right now. This is something that's going to pop up, and our code is going to make it do that. So we want to tell this message box to do something. And what we're going to tell it to do is dot show. And that is called a method. That is a thing that a message box can do. It is an action that it can take. And once again, notice I started typing with a lowercase s, but I can just double click on this and it will fix it for me. So I want to have the message box show. Well, I also want something to show up in the message box. And the way I do that is by putting in parentheses whatever my message is as a string. A string is simply a set of text, a set of letters and symbols that I want to show up. And in C# we start a string by using double quotes and put it whenever our message is. Hello world. And notice it automatically put the closed quote in for you, and in fact it automatically put the closing parenthesis in for us. What it didn't do, however, is put a semicolon at the end of the line. And that is a signal to C# to say that the statement that I've just written, the instruction that I've given the computer to run, is over. So this is the entire statement, messagebox.show with a string called hello world that goes right in the box. And that's really all we have to do to get that button to work. So if we go back out and we click this start button up in the top of the screen, it will run our program for us. And here it is. This is our form. The hello button shows up. When I click on it, there's my hello world pop-up. Just came up on the screen. And if I click OK, it will dismiss it. And I can click hello over and over again, and it will keep showing me that dialog box, that little message box. So that is your first Hello World program. Hope you enjoyed it.